Hi everyone, my name is Anna, I'm 30 years old, living in San Antonio, Texas, though I'm planning to relocate soon. Life has been a whirlwind recently, as I've just emerged from a difficult marriage that lasted a year and a half. It was a harrowing experience, and I had to rely on my dad and the police to safely leave. I often wonder if I could have avoided that situation had I been more cautious or wise. I've always been quiet and reserved, more comfortable with my computer and the online world than face-to-face interactions. Socializing was never my strong suit, and the thought of strangers approaching me made me anxious. Losing my mom to a heart condition when I was 7 profoundly shaped my life. My dad, a Navy SEAL since he was 25, raised me on his own. His job often took him away for long stretches, but he stayed connected through letters and calls. After my mom passed, my dad came home to find me inconsolable. I remember how hard he worked to comfort me, promising that everything would be okay now that he was back. Still, I could sense his grief, and it was the first time I saw him overwhelmed. When I had a playground accident a few months later, he took a short break from work to stay with me. During that time, he left me in the care of my grandmother, asking her to teach me how to bake and cook my favorite treats. I promised to learn, clinging to the thought of showing my dad what I'd made when he returned. He reassured me before leaving again, saying, "I'll be back in about 7 months. Honey, take care of yourself." True to his word, he sent me gifts and souvenirs from his travels, each one a little story that kept him close despite the distance. Most of my childhood was spent indoors with my grandmother. I preferred the quiet over playing with other children and found solace in my own company. When my dad decided it was time for me to move back to our family home, I struggled with the change. College felt burdensome, and social interactions drained me, but online, I thrived. The digital world became my sanctuary, where I could explore endless stories and connect with people on my terms. In this vast virtual space, I met Brian, a streamer. Our friendship started with text chats and eventually moved to video calls. Though we both chose to stay anonymous, I wore a Batman mask while he opted for a scarf and beanie. "Hi, Anna, it's great to finally see you," he greeted, his tone warm and friendly. "Hello, Brian, nice to meet you, virtually, I replied, my nerves evident. "Likewise. So, how are you doing today? Talk to many people?" he asked with a light chuckle. "I'm okay, just a bit nervous, to be honest," I admitted. "That's completely normal, don't worry, I don't bite. Honestly, I'm probably just as awkward as you are," he reassured me with a grin, easing the tension. Our conversation flowed naturally after that, our shared awkwardness making it easier to open up. "Tell me more about yourself, Brian. How did you find yourself in this online world?" I asked, genuinely curious. And so began a connection built on shared stories and mutual understanding, one small step in navigating the complex journey of human connection. Eager to learn more about the person behind the screen, I leaned into our conversation, finding it marked by mutual understanding and a shared sense of belonging. It was a reminder of the unique connections the digital age makes possible, where even the most reserved individuals can find their place and voice. I've always been fascinated by meeting new people and understanding different viewpoints, I shared, but since I spend so much time at home, the online community has become the perfect avenue to explore those interests. What about you? "Well," Brian began, "I'm pretty introverted, so face-to-face interactions can be challenging. The online world feels safer, it's easier for me to express myself here." It was comforting to hear his perspective and to realize how meaningful virtual connections could be. The fact that our paths had crossed felt like a small stroke of fate. As we continued talking, exchanging life stories and finding shared interests, I felt myself relaxing. "You make this so easy," I admitted, grateful for how naturally the conversation flowed. "The feeling's mutual, you're easy to talk to, and I'm glad we met," Brian replied warmly. "If you ever want to chat, I'm usually around, probably playing Mario." "Oh, do you game?" "Not really," I said with a small laugh. "I spend most of my time blogging and browsing Reddit. There's so much you can learn from the experiences people share there." "True," he agreed. "Sometimes, reading about others' lives makes me realize how ordinary my own feels. Honestly, I trust my online friends more than the ones I know offline. What I love about online interactions is the freedom. There's no obligation. You can engage or step back whenever you need to." His words struck a chord with me. The freedom of online connections was exactly what made them so special. allowing bonds to form without the pressures of traditional social norms. As our discussions continued, Brian and I built a genuine connection, one that felt as authentic as any friendship forged in person. I couldn't help but feel curious about where this online journey might lead me. One thing was clear: the experiences and lessons I'd gathered from my digital sanctuary had shaped me deeply and would remain a part of who I am as I ventured through life. However, my dad, ever cautious and traditional, would likely disapprove of me forming friendships with people I'd never met in person. The last time he visited, he couldn't resist delivering one of his lectures over dinner. "So, how are your studies going, Dove?" he asked, his tone as gentle as ever. "Dad, I've graduated," I replied, a hint of sadness in my voice. "But you wouldn't know that, you couldn't make it." His expression softened. "Oh, Anna," he said, his voice heavy with regret, "I know I missed it, and I'm truly sorry. I was caught up with work, but please know I regret not being there," Dad said, his voice heavy with genuine remorse. Despite our differences, the bond between us remained strong, a mix of love, concern, and a deep, sometimes challenging understanding. "I even sent you an email about your birthday tomorrow, my pumpkin's big day, huh?" "Dad, stop with the old nicknames. I'm not 9 anymore," I protested, feeling a flicker of embarrassment. "In my eyes, you'll always be my little dove," he replied with a soft smile. "But let's talk about what's next for you. Have you thought about work?" "I'm not sure yet," I admitted, uncertainty creeping into my voice. "What do you mean, not sure? What are your peers up to these days?" he asked, sounding concerned. I don't have any friends," I confessed, the admission making me feel even more isolated. He looked surprised, then sighed. "Listen, Anna, I didn't send you to live with your mom's family so you could avoid the world. There's so much out there, so many people to meet. You're missing out by staying in." "That's just it, Dad. I don't know how to meet people. I mean, I have friends, but they're all online," I explained, hoping he'd understand. "Online, Anna, that's not the best way to make friends," he replied, his concern clear in his voice. "Okay, how about this? Let's go out shopping today, just the two of us. It's been ages since we've done that." "I'm not sure I'm ready for that," I hesitated, the thought of stepping outside my comfort zone overwhelming. "Come on, Anna, you need to try. Staying cooped up isn't good for you. Ever since your mom, Isabella, passed, you've changed," he said gently, trying to encourage me. "Why bring mom into this? What are you trying to say?" I snapped, a sudden wave of anger surging through me. "I'm not trying to upset you, sweetheart," he said calmly. "I'm just saying that we need to find ways to move forward despite our loss." But his words only fueled my frustration. I slammed my hand on the table, stood up, and left my meal unfinished. "Anna, don't treat your father like that. I'm just trying to help," he pleaded, but I was too upset to listen. "You don't understand me at all, so don't even try," I retorted, my emotions boiling over. Frustrated and needing solace, I turned to my online world, where I could chat with Brian. Brian had always been kind and understanding, offering a safe space to share my thoughts and feelings. His words felt like a balm for the storm of emotion swirling within me. In the quiet of my home, with the glow of the computer screen before me, I found a sense of peace. While the world outside continued to move forward, I sought refuge in my digital sanctuary, a place where I could truly be myself without the pressure of face-to-face interactions. But Dad's concerns lingered. Ever since I told him how much of my life revolved around the online world, he'd been encouraging me to take steps outside my virtual bubble. Despite my resistance, I could sense his hope that I'd find a way to reconnect with the world beyond the screen. I knew it would be hard for him to understand. Dad believed that by confining myself to my room, I was limiting my growth and experiences. He urged me to step outside my comfort zone, a thought that triggered my anxiety. I shared my frustrations with Brian, hoping he'd understand my situation. "Hey Anna, would you like to meet up sometime?" Brian asked. "We're both introverts, so we could find a quiet, peaceful place, somewhere not too crowded. I know just the spot." The idea caught me off guard. "I'm not sure. It feels a bit sudden. I need time to think about it," I replied, unsure of myself. "No pressure. Take your time. Whenever you're ready, just let me know. Here's my address." "You're always welcome," Brian said, his words filled with patience and understanding. "Why are you so kind to me? I'm practically a stranger," I asked, puzzled by his warmth. "Because I genuinely like you," Brian said, his sincerity striking a chord within me. "I know it might sound odd, but I'd like to get to know you better. Whenever you're ready, you know where to find me." His kindness lingered in my thoughts, and after some time, I decided to take the leap and meet Brian in person. It was a monumental step for me. As I approached his home, my heart raced with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Surprisingly, he lived just a 35-minute drive away. I took a deep breath to muster my courage and knocked on his weathered wooden door. It creaked open to reveal Brian's warm, inviting smile. The instant I saw it, my anxiety melted away. Brian's charm was unexpectedly disarming. His home wasn't extravagant, but it had a cozy, lived-in charm that made me feel at ease. Inside, there were shelves lined with well-loved classic books, a collection of board games, and a well-organized computer space, each piece revealing something about him. "Welcome to my humble abode," he joked, using some gaming lingo I didn't entirely get. I might not catch all the gaming references, but thank you. "Your place is cozy. Do you live here alone?" I asked, stepping into his world. "No, I share it with my mom," he replied, his tone light as he invited me further into his life. His gesture bridged the gap between our online connection and this new, real-world friendship. Brian lived with his mom on the ground floor, while he had the top floor all to himself. He gave me a quick tour of the house, and we spent the whole day talking, getting to know each other better. Meeting in person made our bond feel even stronger, and I appreciated the person I'd come to know online even more. As the evening approached, Brian suggested we take a walk in the nearby park. The idea of being outside in the fresh air relaxed me, and my initial nerves began to fade. Walking with him felt like a natural continuation of our online conversations, but there was a new closeness that only in-person connection could bring. During our walk, I mentioned that I hadn't celebrated my birthday because of a fallout with my dad. Brian was sympathetic and hoped for reconciliation, believing that family ties would eventually heal. But as Brian and I grew closer, a possessive side of him began to show. He insisted on constant communication, getting upset if I spoke to others. Despite his claims of love and protection, his behavior began to feel more controlling than caring. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was caught in a game, and Brian was pulling the strings. The situation was complicated further by his mother's disapproval of our relationship. It hurt knowing she held negative feelings toward me, even though she'd never met me. Her close bond with Brian, though understandable, made me feel like an outsider. What was even more confusing was the contradiction in her behavior. While she disapproved of me, she also seemed to want him to get married, despite knowing I had no one else. It made navigating our relationship and his family dynamics all the more challenging. In a whirlwind of misplaced trust and vulnerability, I found myself swept into a secretive marriage with Brian, driven by his persistence and manipulation. He painted a picture where my father's disapproval and lack of love seemed to justify everything, convincing me that only he truly cared for me. I silently accepted the union, hoping it would become my refuge. Instead, it turned into anything but. As the months went by, a different side of Brian's mother emerged, one that sought to diminish me with her harsh words and actions. At first, I tried to brush off her cruel remarks, thinking they were misunderstandings, and that time would soften her view of me. Unfortunately, her disdain only grew, and she became an incessant source of emotional pain. Whether it was criticizing my cooking, questioning my cleanliness, or belittling my efforts, her goal seemed clear: to make me feel unwelcome and inadequate. Meanwhile, Brian remained detached, lost in his own world, leaving me to endure this torment alone. The isolation deepened my feelings of helplessness, and I started blaming myself. I regretted pushing away my father out of confusion and pride. One particularly difficult day, already weakened by illness, I sought comfort in sleep, only to be cruelly awakened by a splash of cold water. Brian's mother stood over me, her contempt palpable, scolding me for resting instead of doing chores. Then, she slapped me, shocking me into a breaking point. Something inside me snapped. "I'm not doing anything for you or your son anymore. I've had enough," I shouted, my voice trembling with the fury of my refusal to be demeaned any longer. In that moment, I realized I deserved better. It was a step toward reclaiming my sense of self, even amid the wreckage of my decisions. Just as I was about to leave, a sharp pain shot through the back of my head, and everything went black. When I regained consciousness, I was in a dimly lit room, with only a single light bulb hanging above. My head throbbed with pain, and when I tried to stand, my legs gave way, sending me crashing to the floor. Confusion and pain overwhelmed me as I tried to make sense of my surroundings. Faint, muffled sounds reached my ears, and I crawled toward the noise. I reached a metal door with a small window. using it for support. I managed to pull myself to my feet just as the latch clicked open. To my horror, Brian stood in the doorway, a grin plastered across his face. "Is my wife scared of the dark?" he taunted, clearly enjoying my fear. I pleaded with him, begging to be let out, insisting that this cruel joke had gone too far, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. He coldly informed me that this was my punishment for defying his mother. He claimed he would keep me locked away, cutting me off from the world as retribution. The reality of my situation sank in as he mocked me further, pointing out my isolation and lack of family support. His words deepened my despair, but then I felt my phone in my pocket. It was broken, yes, but not completely dead. The screen faintly glowed, offering me a slim chance to call for help. In that dark, cold basement, fear mixed with a surge of resolve. How had my life spiraled into this nightmare, just for standing up to unjust treatment? But amid the despair, the possibility of contacting my dad sparked a tiny glimmer of hope. Memorizing my dad's number, a lifeline I never expected to need, I dialed it with shaking hands, tears blurring my vision. My voice trembled as I recounted the terrifying ordeal, clinging to the hope that he could rescue me from this nightmare. 3 agonizing days passed, and just as despair was beginning to claim me, the sound of a car outside sparked a faint glimmer of hope. My heart raced as I listened for footsteps. The door finally swung open, and there stood my dad, his presence a towering force of reassurance. Relief flooded through me, mingled with disbelief. He had come to my rescue, bringing the police with him. Brian was taken into custody, and his attempts to fabricate excuses fell flat. Their fate in court loomed ominously as they faced the consequences of their actions. "You have no idea what awaits you," my dad said, his voice firm, his disappointment and anger clear. Despite their lies, the truth was undeniable. As we left the dark confines of that basement, I felt a surge of courage. This harrowing experience, though painful, illuminated my strength and my dad's unshakable support. I vowed to stand tall against any future adversities, determined to reclaim my autonomy and voice. Moving to Jacksonville with my dad marked a fresh start, leaving behind the shadows of Texas. This ordeal had taught me a valuable lesson: to be cautious with online connections and the realities behind screens. Though this chapter of my life had closed on a grim note, ahead lay the promise of healing and empowerment, with my dad's steadfast support lighting the way.